Hi everybody, my name is Liza Tsatsi. I'm the author of this book, Never Give Up on Success. Some of you have been writing to me and wanting to know who I am, where do I come from, which country do I come from, why have I decided to write the book. Well, I was born and bred in South Africa. I'm proudly South African, and I was born in a small town in South Africa. I grew up there, and I was surrounded by poverty when I was a young girl, surrounded by poverty, teenage pregnancy, and also crime. Remember, during apartheid, the government of the day then didn't care much about crime in the townships. They were more interested in concentrating on political issues of what was happening at the time. So crime was very high in the township, and there was nobody who really cared. I mean, you could do anything and get away with it. And even if maybe you go to the police station as a person of color, you go and complain about something, you can even, be the one who end up being accused. But anyway, as I was surrounded by poverty where I grew up, in my head, I thought that as a young person, I'm going to be a social worker. Because if I'm a social worker, I can correct all the wrongs that were surrounding me. And at that time, there were not a lot of role models in my township where I grew up, and even where some of my families and friends stayed, where they lived, there were not a lot of role models. Our role models then, it was either you become a teacher, a nurse, a social worker, or a minister of religion. I mean, compared to now, there is so much out there. Young people, really, they don't know how lucky they are. They don't know the opportunities that are available to them. Even it was part of oppression that as people of color, we were not supposed to do other things except being a nurse, being a teacher, a social worker, or a minister of religion. I mean, I respect those four professions. That's why I ended up with one of them. My mother wanted me to be a nurse because she used to see nurses when they go to hospital in a white dress and epaulets, and she used to say, I want you to be like that. Unfortunately, I could not do all of them at the same time, but my heart was in social work because I thought being a social worker, I'm gonna make sure young girls go to school, young boys go to school, there's no crime, and I will be able to improve the lives of people. So I studied social work, and because there was also a role model, the lady who was a social worker now. I mean, she was the first social worker that I saw. I always looked at her every time I come back from school, walking back home. When she was doing home visit, I used to look at her and I say, I want to be like that lady. And if you are a social worker, you have to have a degree in social work. I studied psychology, I studied sociology, I studied criminology, I studied philosophy, all the ologies. We used to call them the ologies. So I did practice as a social worker. I do understand dynamics of human behavior. I used to deal with all kinds of problems to help people cope with their problems. In some cases where I can, I would help them solve their problems, but not all the time. I mean, I don't want to regard myself as an expert. So I studied social work, but then I realized that for me to be more effective, I studied law. How did this come about?